Hello, my name is Lund, and today I'll be going over my portfolio for LTDE 5320 Design Development Multimedia Instruction. So overall, I learned a lot in this course, and it was very interesting to find different ways on how to incorporate multimedia into instruction, how to use multimedia as a way to communicate with students in manners that I was not as familiar with. So along the way, we learned several different things and created different artifacts and different projects. So I'll go over a few of them with you today. First, we have the Collaborative Digital Storytelling Project. This is really interesting because it was a collaborative project in which we all worked together to tell our stories of why we are learning to be instructional designers and how we were each affected differently through COVID. So we decided to take ours from perspective of why we decided to become instructional designers and why we wanted to convince others to even take a few classes on being instructional designers. My partners and I worked really hard on creating this assignment and finding a way that told the story in a way that was uniquely ours, but still being approachable from other groups as well. We also used a tool that we weren't all familiar with, which was Canva. And it was a great way because in the process I learned how to use Canva and helped my own students create their project as well later on this semester. Next, we have the Student Central Multimedia Tool for Creation tutorial. I actually decided to use it on Canva inspired by my experience with my classmates previously, and as I have a larger number of students in my classroom who are more and more interested in using Canva but not quite sure as how to use it well for their projects. So I decided to use this opportunity to create a tutorial that I could use for my own students so they learn how to use it as well. So in the process of me creating this tutorial, I took down notes and was able to create a smaller miniature tutorial for my students to use, and now they use it in their own classes and own projects. The other day we had students using it for science projects. It was great. Next is the Principal Design Graphic Organizer. This is really interesting for me because I have always known that different elements work together in different ways to create something aesthetically pleasing or intriguing, such as for video posters and movies, or even just informative posters in the classroom. And so it's interesting to see exactly why those things work the way they are and why graphic designers have such a difficult job of balancing all the different elements and they're getting the great appreciation for those who do create these posters and do create these designs, as well as made me more conscientious about how I create my own presentations in my classroom and how I organize the whiteboard or other posters I have up in the room to find ways to make it intriguing for the students without being overwhelming at the same time. Right. Next, we have the multimedia research summary and analysis. This is really interesting for me because I decided to take an approach from my own perspective where I am teaching, which I work with students learning a foreign language. Oftentimes, there's a lot of overlap between second language learning as well as English language learning, and they often go hand in hand. In my personal experience, I have found that working with teachers or students who are English language learners works really well for me as a second Spanish teacher or secondary language teacher. Because oftentimes there are overlaps, just having students who are incoming students come into Spanish 1 classes or to learn their English, to improve their English skills as well as improve their language overall. So in this process, I learned about how important visuals are for language learners, as well as the evidence that supports that for any classroom setting, and how it actually promotes engagement as well as just beyond just learning. And finally, I have the student centered learning applying the triple DE model. And this was fun because actually my students just completed this project about a week or two ago, and so it was interesting. It was fun and interesting for me to write down everything they did, as well as to go back and reflect on it and see, okay, how could I make this better? How could I take what I'm learning on how and support them in better ways next time I teach this course? It was also fun to sort of apply what I've been learning over this course to create something for my students actively using in the classroom today. So that was a brief overview of my portfolio. Thank you for listening, and I hope all the best for you in the future.